welcome back to another episode of the South Star Classroom. That's Jubilee. I'm Charles. Dave will be joining us soon. But we have the international man of mystery back. Woo! Who knows where he's been? Who knows what continents he's been on? Who knows if he even left the atmosphere? But the most interesting man in the world today is back with his Harvard garb on for this political conversation. I see the insignia at the bottom of my screen. Omar Yanar, welcome back, sir.
What up, everybody? Man, I am excited to be back. See the beautiful, radiant face of our Queen Jubilee Ransom, our wonderful audience, the real Dr. Cole. Man, it has been a while. And what better episode to come back on than a conversation amongst political nerds about what we believe is going to happen in this election. For some people, it is the Super Bowl. For others, it is the Daytona 500. For a nerd like me, it is the election day. And boy, I am wondering if election day is going to turn into the scourge, the cleansing, or the group of movies known as the cleansing. What was the group of movies that I'm super worried about? What was it? When Americans just have a day to go out and murder everybody?
The Purge.
The Purge 2024. I don't know. Being in Little Mexico, my hope is that I'm safe. But God knows, man, Texas is a crazy ass state of mind with people just carrying guns around and shit. I will say that where I was, handguns are illegal. And where I am now, Yosemite Sam is walking down the street right now, handguns in tow, wondering where my country gone. David, where my country gone?
This is ridiculous.
Welcome, David. Jube.
That is literally the definition.
Today is election day, Jube. How are you feeling? What would you like to share? There's no structure today. We're just having we're sharing a historic time and moment together. I may switch out my tea for vodka or maybe wine. Wine is a little milder.
Why do I have to get the extra mansplaination?
Huh? Now you left us all confused.
I'm sensitive because what was the last conversation where
what was mansplained just then? I hate the 2020s. I swear to God, I hate the term mansplaining. I hate gaslight. All these new terms Jubilee, what is your damn reaction to the day? God, man.
Woo! I told you I was gonna get you back. So there we have it. I like it. I like it a lot. Hi, happy election day. I got up early this morning and I put on a nice little cute outfit and I went to the polls and I ended up on the Channel 4 local news. And that was cool. It was kind of cool. I ain't got nothing to say yet except go out and vote. And at the end of the day, it's all in God's hands. That's how I see it. We don't know what's gonna happen. So.
David, and Omar, she put in the group checks, brothers. Lets us know you don't check the group chat. It's all good. She put her video in there.
All right.
How you feeling, David? It's election day. What are your thoughts? Your general reactions?
Yeah, I am a bit nervous. I guess I'm kind of hoping that it was already midnight, so we'd have some sense of what's going on. But I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous. I think from local elections, we definitely have a buffer here in California against some of the craziness that could potentially happen across the country. But tracking both the national elections, we've got a bunch of statewide elections, tracking locally here. Also elections in the Bay Area. So kind of tracking all different levels.
Yeah. I think
paying attention.
I went and did my duty, my civic duty.
Yep.
I like I said, I voted for the sister. I definitely did. I will say this, and I do want to make sure we have a conversation about this. There's a few things we was talking about off camera, and Jubilee and I, but here's the thing. As somebody who's been a Democrat my entire life, I'm not I'm never going to the other side, but I'm so close to just like it might just be independent moving forward in the sense of I think there are some kooks. I think there are some crazy people on either side. Let's get the fringe people out of the conversation. I think that we have just gotten to a place, man, like people just not talking about issues and things like that, man. It's just been really in Chicago. There's a really interesting thing happening in Chicago, like with a lot of these issues and problems. And I think that there's been a lot of people in our party that have been very active. Excuse me, but that just felt like discarded and just not heard and listened to and called all kind of isms for asking questions. And I don't know if that's going to keep flying. I don't know. I think the other thing is I just feel like we need a new tagline. Every election is not the most important election of all time. You understand? Like there was an election with Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War. Like I don't know if this is ranking there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this is JFK and Nixon. I don't know. Like they're just historically speaking. And I think that when you're trying to scare people into voting, you're just starting to get it. I think we're at the point of diminished returns. I don't know if you can do that. Every election I've been a part of, though, has been the most important election of all time. And you lose a little bit of trust. But that's just me. I'm one man.
I mean, I think my only follow-up to that is like, I'm with you, which is this election, and everyone keeps asking and texting me and he's like, dude, like what's going to happen? How's this going to go down? And I try to share things that are like outside the scope of news. Like I get what the news is saying. And I think we have a bit of a more nuanced idea about what's going on because we studied political science and have a little bit of acumen about it. But the most basic thing that you will hear from people on the news is that, like, I think we've said it on the show, like the red will always like stay in line, right? But to get Democrats in line, you have to actually motivate them to get out into that line. Democrats need to be wildly inspired. And that inspiration we all saw in our lives in 2008 with the election of Barack Obama. And that was just a ludicrously motivating moment, I think, that brought out record numbers. And quick story about that to encapsulate that election and what happened. I was actually here at Harvard, and we were at the Kennedy School, which is the School of Government and Politics. And we actually had David Axelrod and David Plouffe, who are the two top political advisors for Obama. I cannot remember the names of the McCain guys, but one of them looked like the Peanuts Planters guy, and the other one looked like the Monopoly man. They were both old white dudes who showed up with like top hats and those things that hold cigarettes and a money bag, essentially. And they showed up on stage and they started the conversation. And what they said has had a profound impact on how I view presidential elections, which is they were sharing the story that they were at campaign headquarters for McCain in Phoenix, and this intern runs in with like a cell phone in his hand, and the campaign manager was talking to every volunteer, and he was just absolutely resplendent. He was lit up and was like, we're going to win this election. We have more volunteers than we have ever seen in any election for period in the history of elections. And this intern comes, like, I got to talk to you. And this campaign leader's like, I can't, I'm in the middle of something. Like, you can't interrupt me. We're sharing unprecedented news. And the guy's like, yeah, about that unprecedented news. He's like, what could be so important that you're interrupting me, sharing with everyone here that we have 5,000 volunteers this early in the game? What is so important? He drops the phone and is like, Obama has 50,000. And the room just sank. And that moment is like, listen, that whole, God, why am I forgetting names right now? Vice presidential candidate for McCain, Sarah Palin. They were like, that whole Sarah Palin thing, that was just a Hail Mary pass, man. We were done. The minute they came in and said we had 50,000 volunteers, we knew that we were done. But what a perfect encapsulation for presidential elections, which is if you look at the volunteer count, you look at people going out for GOTV, the motivation, that will tell you where the Democratic Party is going to go. And my biggest worry isn't so much that a Dr. Charles Cole is going to go out and vote for a Trump. It's my worry is that a Dr. Charles Cole, an Omar Yanar, a Soraya Yanar, a David Castillo just isn't going to get up and vote. And that is the crucial thing for the Democrats, is that the only way they win is that if there's a motivation and inspiration to get off the couch and vote. And right now, I can't tell you definitively the numbers as to how that's going to land. And I'll get into like later into the show major predictors and like why I'm able to usually always predict who's going to win this thing. And it's not something that I constructed. It's something that far smarter people construct. And I'll share it with the whole audience, but that's a question mark as well. So I'm sitting here on a large scale question mark about what's going to happen because most of the indicators that I usually use are question marks right now. And it'll make more sense later in the show. So I'm with you, Doc. I don't know if we have been inspired enough to come out and vote because I think that's an essential component to democracy.
Yeah, I did it, but you know, Jew, I mean, you know, you said you got a nice, you got cute today, you got on the news, you know what I'm saying? You showed the boys like, yo, I'm about to go vote. Here goes mommy's sticker. You feel me?
I did.
Like,
What my stickers? I got my stickers. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, I voted.
Well,
I got my sticker. Here goes my sticker right here.
How you say this in Spanish? Yo vote.
You vote. I voted.
Vote.
Yo vote. I
Oh,
voted.
it's the same in French too. Okay. Maybe
Oui.
All Latin base.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you know, of course I'm going to do my civic duty. That was the news anchor's question to me, like, why is this important to you? So I talked about, you know, the historical nature of, you know, Kamala Harris and all that. But just like I'm out here doing what I got to do. But I wanted to, I know you all were talking about the celebrities and that whole thing. And I've heard lots of commentary about like, why are we doing this? But then I'm like, you know, there's a whole generation of young voters, right? Like whoever's 18 today was their first day ever voting, that may not have cared if they didn't see a celebrity that they actually care about, follow, or influenced by that was up on that platform. So, you know, I mean, some people call it desperation. I still call it strategy to get those people that were some of the people that were undecided or some people that only care about like the latest you know, edge control or the latest car, the latest fashion, this and that. They only care about that. They're not into political science. They're not into following, you know, the polls, all this kind of stuff. But my favorite artist that I paid $2,000 for to go see and sit or stand for 4 hours and wear silver boots in the rain is now hugging a presidential hopeful. And so I'm going to get out and vote. And it's probably not going to be for the candidate. It's going to be because I saw Beyonce up there talking about it's time to write a new song. So, I mean, inspiration comes from all places, and maybe it sounds like desperation, but
I said that's terrifying. Like, and both sides do it. Both sides have these celebrity, they roll them out. But who cares who a celebrity is? Like, why does that? I don't know. Is that?
Well, hold on. Let me. So looking at Harris, like the top maybe 5 or 6 influencer celebrities that she pulled on, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, LeBron James, Harrison Ford, Oprah Winfrey. Not one Latino. That's okay. Donald Trump,
she's got to go.
Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, and Dennis Quaid. They're all white men, right?
Right. Also no Latino.
So sure, it doesn't matter. But if you can look at like who they're actually trying to talk to, right? Yeah. They're very clear. Trump is they're going after the young and uneducated white vote. That's what they're going for, you know?
I mean, I feel like they got to go with the people that signed up to do it for him. I mean, you know, Trump had a bunch of rappers come out. Kamala had rappers and R&B singers come out. I mean, it's just, listen, people should vote and do their thing. That scares me that we are like looking towards celebrities to tell you who to vote for. I feel like that's scary. Like I love Eminem. I love Eminem. I rock with Eminem. I do not care I don't care who he is voting for. Like I just don't. I don't think that is a wise strategy for us as Americans to decide who's going to be in charge of the free world. It's just you kind of get what you get at that point. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
this goes back to like the 20s and 30s. It always has been a thing. I think they used Betty Davis and Humphrey Bogart to push the New Deal. Right? They've always used like actors, celebrities, influencers. It just wasn't on social media. It's always been part of campaigning, and we're seeing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how are you feeling today? Dave, and Jube, I know I jumped in, so if you have more, I'm sorry, continue. In the spirit of conversation.
I was just reading the comment. Bill Conrad wrote that Taylor Swift, and maybe we could fact check it. Taylor Swift got 400,000 followers to register. I mean, I'd love to see like the impact.
More. Yeah.
Possibly, because I think there is a sense of like apathy when it comes to voting for some. It's like, oh, another election, cool. Like, what does that have to do with me? Like, yeah, I'm 18, I'm 21, I'm 20. But so
I don't think it's just 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds. I think it's 60-year-olds too. I think it's 45-year-olds.
I would agree. I think there's a sense of apathy, and it's like, how are we going to get those people off their behinds and into a line to vote or what have you? So I get
400,000 within the 24-hour period after which she endorsed the Harris Waltz campaign. They can track that, right? You put a link out on her Instagram, and they can track where did you come from, right? Where did you get directed to come here? That's in 24 hours. It's pretty crazy.
Yes.
The question is, will they vote? So for me, I'm always looking at voter registration is excellent, but it's certainly no indication as to whether or not that's going to go out and vote. From what I'm looking at, there is, again, so much name dropping on this episode, but the Harvard Kennedy School, the Institute of Politics, conducted a national poll. And what they found is that of the 41 million Gen Z voters, so this is your 18 to 25 demographic, it's oftentimes the least voting demographic in the nation. Old school political scientists will tell you that the more elder you that's the wrong word. The older you get, the more likely you are to vote. So if you are within the senior citizen category, those are your highest turnout voters. Your youth are your lowest turnout voters. According to the IOP, the Institute of Politics, this year, there's a high likelihood that 53% of Gen Z voters will come out. That's a shitload. So Gen Z voters, or excuse me, youth voters, it's Gen Z this time. It'll be perhaps Gen Alpha next few years, but youth voters and turnout is usually something abysmal within like the 20s, like a 22%, 27%. To see 53%, how does that turn out? That is a 21,730,000 vote differentiation. The question is, where are those votes going to be? Because I was watching CNN earlier, and there was this dude, and he's like, yeah, the last time I voted for Obama. And it was like, cool, like, who are you going to vote for today? He's like, I'm voting for Trump. And they're like, you see, this is the mysterious Trump voter that they want to get, they want to grab. And they're like, sir, where are you voting? He's like, Oakland. Exactly. I couldn't help but laugh. You're like, I ain't gonna do shit, man. Like California, that's like who's a secret Kamala voter in Texas and in Seguin, Texas. And I'm like, that ain't gonna do shit either, man. It's whether or not that 21,730,000 is gonna be in somewhere like Georgia and Arizona, because as I think pissed off as Doc is about celebrityism, which I'm so pissed off about that. I don't give a fuck who Ja Rule is voting for, or like, oh, like fucking Will Smith, who are you gonna vote for? I'm like, what? Fuck? This man can't even conduct himself appropriately on national television. You think I give a shit about him choosing the next leader of the United States? No, man. Fuck that guy. But like, yeah, that's what I got hot takes on this show today, man.
Keep his name out of your mouth, okay?
I'm gonna keep Kid Rock's name out of my mouth. Kid Rock. Who gives a shit about Kid Rock, man? When's the last time I put on a Kid Rock album?
What
Charles
else in
started
life?
this.
What else in life am I listening to Kid Rock about his opinions on anything? And I love Will Smith. If Will Smith talking about doing a new movie, I'm with it. I'm on it. But I'm just like, oh, Will Smith is voting for this person. Maybe I would. I just
cares.
That scares me, is what I'm saying. That's how just influential we are. But David, we didn't give you a chance to really lay out how you feeling about today.
I do want to interject really quick because I have a hot take on that, and then I'll switch it over to David. I just want to see, as we're talking about data, I would love to see what the turnout was, or if a celebrity impacted the vote. That would be a cool poll.
I'm sure they do. If Swiftie is getting that $400,000, I'm sure they do. But it's just stupid, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it don't work. I'm just saying it's dumb. I just don't.
I agree with you, man.
I don't know if it's dumb. Like,
if that is what the thing that I'm saying is dumb. Not to use it as a strategy. It's not dumb to use it as a strategy. What I am saying is, if you are waiting for a celebrity who sings or dances or plays ball or whatever the case is, on how they're voting to inform you on how you should vote, I don't know if you. I don't want to say that because I can't take that back. But there's responsibility that comes with being able to vote, and if that's how you're making your decision, that's a problem for me. That's all I'm saying. That's a problem. That's like let's look at vaccination. Let's look at like being in school and your kids having to get vaccinated. And then they're looking to celebrities to be like, well, I'm not vaccinating my kids because of X, Y, and Z. But now the measles is fucking back. You know what I'm saying?
They use celebrities for that too. I mean,
that's my point. And it's stupid then too. Like there are diseases we eradicated that are now returning because people are listening to celebrities about what you should vaccinate and what not. It's stupid. Is all I'm saying.
RFK, dude. If Trump wins, he's going to put RFK in charge of the
the national health, not the national health service.
NIH, NH, whatever it is,
NHA or whatever.
Get rid of all vaccines or whatever he said. I think it's interesting. I've been listening to the messaging coming out of both of the campaigns, and I think the Kamala or the Harris-Walz campaign and their messaging is not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I think they've only had 107 days to campaign, and Trump has been campaigning for a couple of years, right? So they've had more time to develop their messaging. However, I think the fundamental difference around what their messaging is, it's clear. And I don't want to sound corny or go back to the Obama days, but one campaign is putting out a message of hope and the other campaign is putting out a message of fear. And it's unbelievable. Things in this country are not perfect right now. The economy could be better.
Which one's putting out hope? I would say they both putting out fear. Which one's putting out hope?
What?
Jubilee, which one's putting out hope? Please.
Are you kidding me? Harris-Walz. Are you kidding?
You hope? That's hope. If saying that it's the end of democracy if you vote for Trump is hope.
No, you did. Did you watch the damn debates?
You know why?
Every debate.
You were at a panel.
Here's one thing that we forget about.
I watched every single debate. What are we talking about?
You didn't hear the hope at all.
If Trump is elected, it's highly likely that he will get to a point, 2, maybe 3 more Supreme Court justices. So we talk about democracy. The foundation of our democracy is the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, right?
Absolutely.
This is the checks and balances of the way that our government is set up.
Yes.
And so if Trump is elected, it's highly likely you're going to have a 7-1.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
And is that not a threat to democracy?
But that's fear, though, right? That's it. That is a defensive vote, is what I'm saying. That's
I
not
don't think it was holistically a fear mongering message.
Let me explain a little bit more.
Give me the whole. I want to. I just don't think any of them talked about. I mean, ran on hope. I think they're both running on fear. Fear that one is going to be a dictator.
Yeah, well, he said he's going to be a dictator.
Absolutely. Right? But it's not. I don't deny the facts of what was said. I don't deny that whether if that's not true or not. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But I don't want to ascribe hope to a campaign that ran on fear the same way that the other one did. It's just different fears.
I think
give me an example of hope, Jubilee. I'm listening to y'all, but
I'm gonna find.
Yeah, let me give you another example. The other example.
If it was memorize people's speeches.
Okay. The other example we're hearing from the Trump campaign, and they've been doing this for a while, and it's actually quite effective. It's unbelievable. Like people, like there's so many actual issues that people should be, looking into, researching. But instead, they find that one thing that is like that pushes the fear button in people. And for this election, one of the big things, especially amongst the people that are undereducated, easy to scare, homophobic, transphobic, is this trans issue, right? And I will go even as far to say like trans women, trans men in sports, where they've switched aside in the sport, right? That's become such a big thing, and people are very concerned about it. But I'm like, it's sports, people. It's not like life or death, right? And people have made this huge thing where like they're solely voting on trans people being able to participate in sports where they feel like they're not like aligned with their actual gender, right? And that's a real thing. They're still talking about drag queen story time, right? They're still talking about if you send your kids to public schools, they're gonna go in a girl and come home a boy one day. All this stuff is just like it's crazy, but it's very effective with people. And so that's like one of the fear-based arguments that's actually not rooted in reality. I think the other side is pointing out, the potential for our democracy, right? Or the whole idea about, Venezuelan immigrants are coming and they're going to eat your dogs and all this stuff, this crazy stuff, right? That was also fear-based, not based in reality. I agree with you, Charles. Both Waltz and Harris, they've gotten dark. They've done that thing. They've done that whole thing.
It's the end of democracy.
I don't really think they're like making stuff. I mean, do you think it's the end of democracy if Trump gets to appoint?
No, I don't think it's the end of democracy. I don't want him to win, but he was here already and it wasn't the end of democracy, right? The other side just won. Like, I mean, this is what I'm saying. And listen, just for the record, I voted for it. This is who I voted for.
There we go.
I voted for it. So, but what I'm saying is that but the facts are the facts. Both of these sides ran off of fear. I don't know if people went and voted for Kamala Harris and Waltz as much as they are voting against Trump, as much as they are voting against the end of democracy or him being back or whatever. It's hard to run on hope if you're Kamala and Waltz, because like you are already there. Like you are here. You have been here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of matters, right? And again, I voted for her, but I wasn't excited about the election at all. I'm not like, I don't know what the hopeful thing is. And again, if for somebody, if they ran on a campaign of hope, it shouldn't be difficult to tell me what the hopeful parts were. Like
I'm looking it up. I'm just
abortion rights, right?
But
economic
abortion rights, though, is what I'm saying.
We gotta
let Jubilee get in. We gotta let Jubilee
finish because he's
the opportunity economy, right? The economic platform focused mainly on the middle class, right? Climate change, right, which is a real thing. We've just had like multiple hurricanes that devastated Florida, so making sure that they're taking climate change very seriously. Social justice, like a kind of a national platform around social justice. criminal justice system reform. That's not necessarily, that's not a fear-based thing, right? You're actually doing something positive. Healthcare, increasing healthcare for people, lowering healthcare costs. That's not fear-based, right? I agree. There were like definitely digs here and there, and they use that. You know, that's what they do in campaigns. But
Absolutely.
you know, if you look at their platform, it's definitely like, here is what we're going to do to make people's lives better, right? So,
agreed.
I voted too.
Me 3.
I think we all voted. Go ahead, Jude.
Joe vote. Mad.
What am I mad about? I just think that we're going to continue to lose people and black people in the Democratic Party because I don't think this was a good campaign at all. But
I'm not saying that. First of all, the lady found out that she had to run for president like 2 days ago.
We got to stop this, man. She wanted it. She been wanting it.
That's fine, but we didn't know about it, and it wasn't official until very close to the election. Who has ever had to manage that kind of transition?
107 days.
Name a candidate within the last 10 years that has had to do what?
10 years. That's 2 elections. But continue.
Okay, fine. So name a candidate. So name a candidate who had to go through that, who had to turn it around, flip it on a dime, and get people galvanized with their party in less than the amount of time everybody else has to do so.
I'm just waiting on the hope. Go ahead. I'm listening.
When I'm saying the whole, I'm saying that yes, they had digs and all of that. But to me, when she stood up there, or when Harris stood up there and they had to say what they said, it wasn't primarily about, you don't want this man to be president ever again. Yes, they're gonna say that. Right. And that whole, we're not going back. We won't go back. But that became a whole tagline, you know, for their for their campaign. But saying things like, with this election, our nation has precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward, not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. Right. Like, there was a hopeful tenor to what she's saying. Like, America, let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for: freedom, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities. She was saying stuff like this along with her running mate for her entire campaign. And yes, we won't go back, because hell, even if you agree with some of Trump's politics, some people probably shifted over because they didn't like the way he did stuff. Oh, I'm going to retaliate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for immunity. All the crazy stuff he said also probably cost him people that maybe would have voted for him. But I just feel like there was a hopeful tenor, and it wasn't solely based around how much of a bigot, Trump is. And it was more about like what we can do together should you choose to vote this way. I just feel like that was more pronounced than hopelessness or fear mongering. That's my thought.
Okay.
My question is, that going to motivate enough people to get out in the right places to actually vote and make, I would arguably say, a very substantive difference? And well,
that's why they got
I actually think the opposite. And why do I think that? So when you have the RNC calling in threats in Georgia and in Philadelphia specifically, I'm like, oh, word? You're calling in voter fraud threats in Philadelphia specifically. We all know who's voting in Philadelphia. We know the demographic of Philadelphia. And I think that that's an interesting sign to demonstrate ludicrously high turnout. And I'm in the middle here, because while I watched a lot of this campaign shift into the Kamala Waltz discussion of the future and children and housing, which I thought was a very positive push forward in terms of thinking about the middle class, I'm in the middle because so much of this, in my opinion, is a fear-based scenario of, we are going to lose democracy. We are going to have a Supreme Court filled with ne'er-do-wells. I mean, dude, are you fucking kidding me? With Kavanaugh and Amy Barron Cohen, those two fucking flunkies have no business on the Supreme Court. They are straight out of the Federalist Society, and that shit worries me. So yeah, my vote may have been, in this case, more fear-based than hope-based, But I think that there's a hope for the American democracy that this side is demonstrating that I'm not really getting from the other side. I mean, I just reread Thomas Paine's Common Sense, and I'm sitting here reading
Shout out to
a
Payne.
pamphlet. Yeah, man, my man, that was written in fucking 1776. Like, you know, it was at the advent of the revolution. And it's astonishing to me how something that was written so long ago is chiming and reverberating with the very themes of democracy is a very fragile component of pure ideology. It is something that exists in our mind. And if we're not the ones who are going to go out and exercise that because we're playing clickety clack and shooting dice with our elections, wondering if some like illiterate fascist is going to run this place better, like I just got to say, for people who wonder where is my thinking at, I wouldn't even have Donald Trump as an employee in my organization. Like someone who can't read, can't think, can't decipher shit on their own, whose only predominance is self-gratification, is the exact opposite of what EPLA is. And I have to sit and wonder how many of our citizenry understand how fragile the system is and how quickly it could be uprooted, because it's happened before in other places. And yeah, Doc, this may be a very fear-based election, but I am quite fearful that the things that we have tried to establish and tried to improve on over the last 300 years could all go to shit because, I don't know, man, like, gas prices are sucking shit right now. So fuck this. Yeah. I'm like, God dang, I get it, man. I don't want high gas prices too, but American democracy versus gas prices, like, all right, cool. Like, I don't want someone to wake up and be like, hey, man, gas prices are down, but now I'm under autocratic rule. And this dictator is essentially demanding that I go across the world to go fight for his honor and his statue.
Yeah, I voted for Harris Walls because I don't want a Republican having more control over the bench. I think that's really important. I think it's one of the most important things that we do. I think we should have been harder on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like when Obama tried to get her to retire so he could replace her, and I think she was arrogant, and she stayed because she just thought Hillary was going to win and walk in there. But I do think that, like, I don't know if Hillary winning is going to make us less divided. I think we're going to still be divided. I think we're a divided nation. I think all those black people got murdered by the police when Obama was president. I don't think that changes things for us. The place that I grew up in Oakland, that's only had Democratic rule, went from being black to us not really existing there, happened under that, right? Like, I think it's just like, I don't, so you know, I had a defensive vote. I think that my values align up more with the Harris Walls campaign, just in general, right? Because I am a Democrat. But there are some things that it's time that I think that we look at. I think taxes are out of control. I think, you know, I'm in the Midwest where, like, you know, you see people not able to get groceries and stuff. Like, I you know, it's rough for a lot of people. And I think living outside of the New York and the Eastern Seaboard and the California Seaboard, like, it is different, I think, inside of the place, right? Like, I am seeing different conversations that you just don't see in coastal places. And I think a lot of those people feel ignored, and I think they don't feel heard, and I think that they feel pandered to. And I think that we have, as a party, if we're going to remain, listen, we've had the White House longer than the Republicans. In the last 20 years, Democrats have had that power. And I think that the things that have worked in the past, I don't know if they'll continue working for cycles in the future. That's my point. As somebody who worked in the party, has worked with Kamala Harris directly, who served as the vice chair of the California Young Dems Black Caucus for 3 years. Like, I was there, I was around there. And those issues that we tried to bring up then are starting to permeate more now. And I don't think it bodes well for us in the future, regardless of how this one goes. And I think that people want to see something hopeful. They want to vote for something, not against And when you vote against, that's where I think you're talking about, Omar. It's hard to get people off the couch when you're just voting against. Give people something to be excited about. You know, that was my larger point.
Y'all hear about Peanut the squirrel?
I was sad, man, and I was really sad, man. I love that little squirrel, man.
What?
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. I don't want to bring any. I don't want to.
It was basically this guy found it was like a wounded squirrel, and he coached. I mean, he like nursed this squirrel, but the squirrel's like trained, like, so they had like a little youth, like a social media page, and somebody reported it, and they went in and they cut that squirrel's head off. Man, I mean, they killed that squirrel, man.
In the state of, and so
it animals, right?
It happened in the state of New York. So now it's getting pinned on, you know, the Democrat state of New York, and they're using it to campaign for Trump now, right? It's crazy. Anyhow,
yeah, man, that's some sad shit. Really quickly, I meant to mention this a lot earlier, but to our audience, I'm always a huge fan of questions. So I love hearing from the audience a ton. Man, Bill, you're coming in strong, like it's badass. It's like you're here having a conversation with us. We love it. Dude, my boy Javier's here. I love Javier, man. This has been my boy
this is my point. I mean, this is a good comment. I mean, one of the things that, and I've talked about it on the show before, but you know, one of the things I just can't like I can wrap my head around the Democratic Party's position on schools, on education, right? It is what it is, right? It's tied to unions. There's a whole infrastructure behind it. I don't think we're going to ever get anything like student-centered, you know, or innovative around schools from the Democratic Party. I've let that go. The one interesting thing, and it's not even interesting, but you know, what we forget is like we have an ongoing war. I wouldn't even call it a war, call it a genocide happening in the Middle East right now. It's happening right now. They just bombed another you know, apartment building in I forget where, but like 200.
I think that's where Democrats and Republicans are most aligned, though. I think that the
and
leadership
so
of our party is going to lean the same way, regardless.
Yeah, and I think it's been you know, if there were a reason that I would not support you know, Kamala Harris and Walz, even though they've just started to shift their messaging on it, is to hold them accountable day one if she's elected, to like end and come up with some kind of a peace agreement in the Middle East, because you know, neither party, neither campaign are actually talking about this genocide that's happening right now. It's almost like surreal. So this comment, yeah, people are concerned about a goddamn squirrel. You know, Kid Rock's campaigning for this person. You know, whoever, Beyonce is campaigning for the other campaign. But you know, in reality, like there are two wars going on right now.
Right.
You know, and people are dying. And we are funding, you know, we are funding those wars. We are supplying weapons in, you know, both of those situations.
And that's our party though that's doing that, right? Like our party.
Yes.
That's why it's not a big argument, because we're still America. We are still America at the end of the day. That leadership is the one thing they are aligned on. And what they are both saying to that group of people is that you still have our support. We will continue to support you. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a reason why that's not a contention point. You know what I'm saying? Because the interest of American foreign policy is still, you know,
I will. My only chime in on that one is American can do whatever they want to do in terms of their allegiance to Israel, but until Israelis remove Netanyahu, and until Palestinians and the PLO remove the entire leadership of their extraordinarily right-wing murderous faction as well, we're not going to be able to come up with a peace accord until you have two individuals in those leadership positions who are willing to actually have that conversation. And that is my big fear, is that neither leadership of either Israel or the Palestinians are in any way, shape, or form representing what the actual people of Israel and Palestine wish to do. And I think that the best thing the United States can do is support a election of people who actually represent the wants and needs of those folks versus what I'm seeing over there, which is essentially just the perpetuation of a Netanyahu. And that's horrific.
Yep.
And by the way,
Yep.
that's Parliament. So for those in the know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Netanyahu is the prime minister, which is elected by the parliament, not by the people. So the people have voted for those members of parliament, and Netanyahu is the majority leader, if you will, of that particular party. And they're going to have to pull a Great Britain, where they shifted from 14 years of conservative rule into a huge sweeping referendum for the Labour Party, and that switches the prime minister. I just don't see Israeli and Palestinian compromise happening until leadership gets changed. So I'm with everyone on this, is that we should not be talking about squirrels. We should be talking about the mass genocide of a people. We should be talking about the Supreme Court. But I think this is exactly the theme of this podcast, which is America in a position to understand exactly what is at stake when it comes to elections in the Supreme Court? Right. Or are we just simply so distracted that we're allowing social media influencers to decipher who's going for what? And I think that in turn makes me a bit sad and confused. However, I would still support a system of democracy over any other system in the world.
Same. I feel
imperfect.
1,000% the same. Like, and I think you summed it up like really, really well, man. I want to vote for something. I also think that, you know, both sides have the tail wagging the dog, meaning there are extremists, really, really far left people trying to run the Democratic Party and really, really far right people. And the point that I was making about middle America or here in Illinois is that it's not as cut and dry here as it is in California and New York, right? Like, you'll look at people and you can't really tell what either one of them are, and the differences are very slight, right? But most of them are leaning center. They're like center right or center left. And I think that I think people in general feel like both sides have just gotten really, really, really extreme. And it's like, and I think that's where Barack Obama and Bill Clinton were both really, really strong. And you watch Kamala Harris kind of dip in there towards the last 3 weeks. You know, she's been getting kind of ate up by the left, because they've been saying that she's been moving and pulling more to the right. And it's like, she's not pulling to the right. She's trying to win an election. You got to start pulling to the center at some point. You know, the only person that really does work for like that is kind of Trump, who on some level kind of tried to pull a little bit center, but like, you know, he just has a party that is motivated. He has a group of people that's motivated. I think she's gonna win, but I'm not
motivated or crazy.
I don't know, man. Both, right? But here's the thing. I think some of the shit on the left is crazy too, and I think we have to say that. I think we have to. You got to call crazy, and I think there's crazy on both sides of that thing. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, whereas I was super depressed the first time that Trump got elected, and guess what? The world didn't explode, man. And bad shit and good shit happened under him the same way bad shit and good shit happened under Obama. And the point that I'm making is, like, regardless how this ends, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I got to do what I got to do. And I'll be disappointed if he wins, but I'm not as fearful this go round as I was the first one, because we've seen it. And also, Bill, we love you. I love you commenting. If you want your comments to come up, you got to stop cussing in the damn comment, B. And I need you to know that. I'm not trying to ignore you, bruh. I can't post that shit. So
highlight every one of his 4 comments. That's right.
Right. Like, it's cool that you want to have a conversation directly with us. Hey, keep doing it. I just don't want you to feel slighted because I can't post it.
I know we're coming up on our last 10 minutes, and I want to share with our audience, if you do actually have questions or curiosities or wonders, I'd love for you to ask, simply because I think elections can get particularly tricky, and I'd love to answer and have us answer any question that you may have. Please keep the comments coming. We have limited time, so I just want to share something really quick with you all. It's going to just pop up David, you mind
and later
sharing
remind me. I want to respond to your friend Xavier before we're
What are we
done
looking at?
on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very quick.
in the
I shared
private
it on
chat?
the private chat. Yeah. And I'm going to be really quick about this. I'm not going to
Okay.
go through it one by one. I just want to introduce the idea. There's a really cool author
Okay.
called Alan Lichman. And Alan Lichman wrote a pretty great book called Predicting the Next President. And what he's essentially deciphered is that there's 13 key indicators that basically say, here are 13 key indicators. And
Hold on, I want to be. You actually put a Kid Rock video in the private chat. Is that what you want to see?
That is not what I want to see. That is exactly the opposite of what I want to see.
Is that it?
My name is Kid. Oh, you want? I'm put up.
It must. Let me
Is
see.
that it?
Although
it's in the basement. There it goes.
There it is. Yeah, you got to keep going down. There it is. That's it.
Okay.
Keep going down.
All right, I'll scroll. You tell me when to stop.
So keep going because I'm not. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, your thing is scrolling
right there. Bam, you got it. Right there, that chart that said keys to the White House.
Yeah,
so go back up. So basically, there are 13 keys. And if 5 or fewer of the keys come out as false, that will indicate who the winner of the election is. So, for example, just like party mandate, right? This is simple. When after the midterm elections, the incumbent party, the Democrats, hold more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than it did after the previous midterm election, that's a false statement. The Democrats lost seats. So that is a dinger. You can only have 5 or fewer false statements to make the indication as to who will become the president. Now, I actually ran through them myself, and there were some question marks. However, I pretty much came up with right on the line 5 false statements. And the statement is false 5 or fewer, meaning if this key is correct, that would be a win for Kamala and not for Trump. And there's if you go to let's say 8, I counted that as a false actually, whereas some political experts actually said that was true. There's no sustained social unrest during the term. I actually put that as false. I think that there's a lot of social unrest, massive amount of social unrest. Well, is that unrest on the Democratic side or the Republican side? I'd argue to say both. And I don't know, that's a huge question mark, right? I had another question mark when it came to the foreign and military component. Did we suffer a major failure? We didn't. However, did we gain a major success? Maybe pulling all of our troops out of Afghanistan was a major success of the Biden administration. Although there's a lot to say that we kind of jacked that one up, and the situation in Israel and Gaza. So you kind of see where there's a few question marks here to demonstrate, well, shit, I don't know for sure how this will affect the electorate. Short-term economy, number 5. I actually put that one as false because of inflation. And I think that is driving people's votes, especially on the Republican side. So I actually gave that one a false. But this is just for our audience.
Wow, this is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look up Lichman, you can kind of go through the process yourself. There are people that tried to fill it in as much possible. The fill-ins that I did see had kind of the Biden Kamala winning. However, in my opinion, I had too many question marks on some of them to make an accurate prediction. But if people always wonder, Omar, how do you constantly know who's going to win these things? I've known about this guy for quite a long time, and these are usually the indicators that I use. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could tell you what is going to happen. I have some semblance of hope that the Kamala side is going to win, and that is based purely on the fact that in the 2016 election, I think that people just handedly thought that Hillary was going to win it, and it drove her voter turnout down immensely versus this election cycle where we're seeing significantly higher voter turnout. But I will be a question mark for now, and we will have some kind of wrap up probably next week when we know what the hell happened. So that's all I got.
Yeah, man. I want to respond to Xavier's. This your person, right? This your homie?
Yeah, man, that's my boy Javier, man.
Yeah, I would just say, man, as somebody who highly campaigned for Obama, who is still an Obama fan, and was really proud and emotional that night that he got elected. Like, it's a lot of. He said that he has to counter the Trump turn. His students were detrimentally impacted. I would say, especially if you're an immigrant, Obama, he deported more than he was the my Latino fellows put me up on that one. I remember years ago when we were talking about that, but they called him the deporter in chief. Like under the, looking at that border, there was a lot of unrest under Obama. That's where, BLM grew and rose under, like, a lot of that stuff was happening, man. Like, so again, the division, now it was rooted in a lot of racism and things like that. All I'm saying is I don't want to paint any fake rosy pictures. That's all I'm saying, right? Like, this shit is rough under whoever's going to be here because it's still America. But I think that sometimes, we can make arguments feel a little bit more convenient. But when you look at the racial and social unrest, it was not peachy keen under my boy, and I would say he is my boy. So I just wanted to make sure I responded to that. Well, it's gonna be interesting tonight, man. Like I said, I don't know if I'll be up all night. Maybe I will because I'm a nerd at the end of the day. I'm annoyed by it, but I still like politics. I still like you said, man. I like democracy. You know what I'm saying? I think democracy is the way that things should kind of go. I think people deserve a voice. That don't mean I'm always happy with how we vote. It don't mean that, like, I don't have to be happy with like the amount of influence celebrity has, but I'm glad I live in a democratic place and not otherwise. And there's a lot of people that still fight to come here and risk life and limb to be here, have gotten opportunities being here. Everybody's family. The three of you, like 3 generations ago, were not here. And some, 4 generations ago, were not here. And like somebody made a decision, you know what I'm saying, to come. So, the same with my Creole grandmother and all that good stuff, man. Even though
for the record, though,
yours were here. Yours were here.
My people, the border crossed us. We always been here, man.
There you go. Yeah. That's what I mean. But what I'm saying is like there's still. Look, I think sometimes people think we hate America, and I don't. I think you can criticize something that you love and that you in. I don't doubt any of the 4 of us or our lineages or our families. There's some frustration. And there's times that I hate parts of or things that are happening. But let's be clear. It's the reason we got a border problem because people want to be here. So, but it can be improved. It's going to be an interesting night, man. I think it's going to be an interesting night. So hopefully our girl wins, but I'm not going to lose sleep either way.
Me neither. I am hopeful. Either way this goes. I just feel like at the end of the day, God is in control and we will still wake up, with purpose and destiny and things to do. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, because we are the South Star classroom, just about the future of our children, and my son, who is 15, who at the next election, he'll be old enough to vote. And yesterday, we were sitting in the car and he was just talking about his AP Gov class and all the stuff he learned about the Electoral College and all the stuff and what's going to happen if it's a tie and who's going to have to break the tie and all this. And I'm like, okay, all right, young Black man. Like, and so it's like, if we want to shift, the ills of our country, such as the ability for influence from people who, whatever, sing, dance, not politicians, that we want to be able to shift that, then I think knowledge and preparing our young people now would be the only way to counter that so that they are making sound decisions when they get to the poll, right? So I think education is still the through line that can shift that so that they can say, like what Doc said, like, well, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Like, I'm going to the polls and I'm voting this way because I understand this. And I think where there's a lack of understanding, a lack of experience, a lack of the ability to interpret what's going on, then yes, I am going to be extremely influenced, right, by the influential, because I don't have a framework for myself. I I didn't study it. Maybe nobody in my family is talking about it or knowledgeable. So who will I listen to, right? So if we want to shift that, then I think it behooves us to continue to think about ways to prepare the next generation. We're all older. We can fix some things, but I really believe that it's going to be in their hands. So it just has me thinking about what are the things that we can do as educators, as leaders, as uncles, as cousins, as aunties, or what have you, that can prepare the next generation.
I think a couple thoughts. So this is so if Trump does not win, he's not coming back in 2028, right? I think he'll be too old. I think that's 84. it. And if he wins tonight, this will be his last term as president, right? We get one more Trump term. And so, you could look at that as either glass half full or glass empty. Because there's never going to be another Trump. It's not about.
It might be, man. Depending on how well he do, it might be. He got little baby Trumps around here.
He's a one-off. He's a one-off kind of guy, And so I think that is interesting too, especially thinking about like down the road. What if you have kids that are like in school now, like what they still have the rest of their lives to live, right? And multiple cycles of election cycles, and so they'll experience change too. We didn't talk much about the role of like social media. We didn't talk about like X and Elon Musk, and that could be a whole other thing because that definitely came into play. And what we also didn't talk about, which I think is interesting, is the fact that like Kamala is a woman, right? She'd be our first female president, and I wonder how many on the fence Democrats or independents just are like, I just can't vote for a woman. And then they're like, well, and she's a Black woman. So I don't think I can do it. I'm not going to tell anybody that I can't do it, but I just can't do it. So I'm going to go and vote for, this other dude. Right. And I think that's what we really have to kind of unpack here. Because I think that is, if it's going to be close, if he ends up winning, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of votes. I believe that people decided to move from independent or Democrat to Republican simply because she is a Black woman, right? And I think that's for me the big question that we need to like dive into. But again, with 107 days to prepare a campaign, like what are you going to do? If somebody offered me a job as a school leader or an executive director and said you have 107 days to prepare, I'd be a little stressed, but it's good enough time. But to run a campaign, to be president of the United States, I think it's pretty insane.
That's what's up. Well, I think those are all good points, man. I know we've kind of going over. Is there anybody else has anything else they want to make sure that they get out of there, close out? The country will be, we will have a new president-elect the next time we see each other. So in our final thoughts, God. So David, I know you just went, but I'll start it with you. You can pass, but your final.
No, that was my final thoughts. That was it. That was
I just didn't know if you know the context.
Yeah. And the last thing is, can Bill Conrad please DM me his address in the Philippines? We're gonna, depending on how things go tonight, we might be.
That's what's up. I want you to have room to let it breathe, Jube. Omar, what's your final thought?
No, man, I think my final thought was simply that I was talking about. Here are those 13 indicators. I'm uncertain exactly where those indicators are going to lie, but I will say that I am actually worried, and I am actually maybe going to lose a little bit of sleep, because the thing that does worry me the most is having Trump decide a Supreme Court that I think he has no business deciding over. And I don't want, like, you can be as fickle as, well, this guy's going to only have 4 more years, but he will insert justices that will hang out another 30 years. And that is 30 years of just robbing Americans of their absolute rights. And like Javier was right about one thing, dude, we got Citizens United from a conservative court. We had the overturn of Roe versus Wade from a conservative court. And I'm just not simply down with a bunch of Federalist Society flunkies being inside of Supreme Court. If I'm sitting here looking at the Supreme Court and being like, I'm more qualified than you are to be a Supreme Court justice, who I feel about Alito, I feel that way about Amy Barron Cohen, and I definitely feel that way about Kavanaugh. They have no fucking business being in the Supreme Court if I feel that I'm more qualified than them. That will make me lose some sleep. In addition to the fact that, like, we have a whole group of bureaucratic people who they get completely replaced and put a Gestapo of loyalists as positions in the federal government. That may make me lose some sleep. So I just understand that because democracy is fragile, I really just don't want an illiterate fool handling it. So that's my final take, and we'll see what happens. And for all of us on the show, man, thank you for the incredible level of comments and participation. A lot of audience participation today. So thank you all.
Jew.
I mean, that was my final comment about, you know, the young people. So I'm really good. I also want to highlight that Bill said that it's karaoke all day. Okay, so I'm
Let's go. Yeah.
interested. And let's see if I can I get a heart today? Oh, it's working! Yay!
You finally got it, man. It's about time.
So my final thought. I think it's gonna be interesting, man. Like I said, I say I'm not gonna stay up and watch it, but again, I think the nerd in me probably will. I don't like the idea of Trump being able to fill out more, you know, seats. But I'm more annoyed and upset with my party. I just expect more. I expect us to be better. I expect us to. We had time. And we have to also take accountability for the time that we are in power. There was a time we had the House, the Senate, and you know, and we had that stuff and weren't able to get things done. And so, you know, it is. I just expect more. But we'll see. But like you said, guys, I completely believe that. This has been another episode of the South Star Classroom. That's David, that's Jude, that's Omar. I am Charles, and we will see you all next week. Same bad time, same bad station. Take care of each other, and history will be made the next time we see each other. So God bless. Peace.
Today's episode of BS3 Network is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's is going to McDonald's and creating a universe for longtime fans of both McDonald's and anime. I love sauce on my McNuggets and can't wait to try the savory chili McDonald's sauce. It's savory, chili, and bold. For decades, across various episodes and genres, McDonald's has shown up in the anime world and most commonly called McDonald's. McDonald's will be bringing the McDonald's world to life with episodic shorts and manga comics. For a limited time, anime fans will have the opportunity to experience their favorite fictional restaurant. You have until March 25th to try the new savory chili McDonald's sauce with your 10-piece chicken nuggets.